The cafe went silent as the young woman gasped, staring down at the dark stain spreading across her pale dress. Hot coffee dripped onto the floor, her hands trembling, her cheeks flushed with humiliation. People glanced, some smirked, but no one moved except one man. A single dad in his late 30s, with a little girl clutching his hand, slipped off his jacket and draped it gently over her shoulders. His smile was calm, kind, and disarming. In that instant, the room shifted, and her story truly began. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. The cafe buzzed with the late-morning crowd, clinking cups, low conversations, the hiss of the espresso machine. It was the kind of chaos where nobody noticed anyone unless something went terribly wrong. And that's exactly what happened. The young woman in her late 20s, dressed in a fitted ivory dress that spoke of ambition and careful preparation, froze as her hand slipped. A steaming cup of coffee tipped forward, spilling in a cruel cascade down the front of her dress. The rich liquid spread like wildfire, staining the fabric in blotches that looked like scars. Her breath hitched. The noise of the cafe dimmed, as if the world paused just to spotlight her humiliation. A couple of people glanced up. One smirked, another whispered to a friend. No one moved. No one offered help. No one except him. A man in his late 30s stood abruptly from his seat by the window. His jacket, a simple dark one with worn cuffs, came off his shoulders in a single movement. He had the kind of face life had weathered, handsome in a rugged way, with lines around the eyes that hinted at struggle but also at strength. Beside him, a little girl of about 8 years old with a ponytail and wide blue eyes clutched a crayon and stared. "Here," he said, moving forward without hesitation. His tone was calm but firm, the kind that cut through panic. He draped his jacket over her shoulders, covering the stain. His presence carried weight, not of wealth or status, but of someone who knew what it meant to be hurt and still stand tall. The woman blinked up at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Her voice cracked. "I had a meeting. A huge one. This is ruined." The man crouched slightly so his gaze met hers directly. "It's not ruined. It's coffee. That's all. People will forget about it in 5 minutes. But you," he gestured gently, "you still walk into that meeting like you own the place. Confidence will always be louder than stains." His daughter tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy," she whispered, "can she borrow my scarf?" Her tiny hands reached into her backpack and pulled out a soft pink scarf. It was frayed at the edges, clearly well loved, but she held it out proudly, her eyes sparkling with determination to help. The woman's lips trembled as she accepted it. Wrapping the scarf around her neck, she whispered, "Thank you. Both of you." The man offered her a napkin from the counter. "Wipe your hands. Hold your head high. You've got this." For a moment she just looked at him, the stranger with calloused hands and the little girl who gave away her favorite scarf. The cafe felt different now. The stares had faded, the smirks replaced by something else. Respect, curiosity, maybe even a little shame in the eyes of those who had done nothing. The woman straightened. She drew in a shaky breath, squared her shoulders, and adjusted the jacket on her frame. "I'm late," she said softly, "but I'll go." "Good," the man replied with a small smile. "And when you do, don't think about the stain. Think about the fact that you're stronger than it." The little girl grinned. "You're gonna win your meeting." "I know it." The woman let out a small, unexpected laugh, the sound shaky but real. She glanced between them. This father and his daughter, who had shown more kindness in 3 minutes than anyone else had all morning. Something stirred in her chest, something she hadn't felt in years, the reminder that not everyone looked away when life went wrong. As she turned to leave, she whispered, "You don't know what this means to me." The man shrugged lightly, but his eyes softened. "Sometimes the smallest things mean the most." With that, she hurried out the door, her heels clicking sharply, her figure wrapped in the borrowed jacket and the little pink scarf. And though the stain remained, it no longer defined her, At the window, the man sat back down, his daughter leaning against him, coloring again. He didn't think much of it, just a small act of kindness in an ordinary day. But little did he know, that moment had set something in motion neither of them could have imagined. Hours later, the cafe had quieted down. The single dad, whose name was Ethan Walker, sat by the window again with his daughter Lily. The little girl scribbled shapes and words in her notebook, her tongue sticking out in concentration. Ethan kept glancing at the clock. He was due at his second job soon, the one that barely paid the bills, but kept their modest apartment afloat. Life hadn't been easy, but he lived by a rule his late father once taught him. Even when the world kicks you, son, you don't stop being decent. He didn't know that his small act of decency earlier that morning was about to circle back in ways he could never have imagined. The cafe door swung open again, and heads turned. She was back. Her ivory dress was still stained, but it no longer seemed to matter. The way she walked, heels clicking with confidence, her chin slightly lifted, made her look untouchable. Yet when her eyes locked on Ethan's, her entire demeanor softened. She strode across the cafe, every step echoing with urgency, until she stopped right in front of him. Her voice, still catching her breath, carried a tremor of disbelief. "I closed the deal," she blurted out. Ethan blinked, caught off guard. "You, what?" "The meeting. The one I thought I lost the moment that coffee hit me. I walked in late, my dress ruined, my nerves shot. But then..." She paused, her eyes searching his face. "I remembered your words. Confidence will always be louder than stains. And I carried that with me. I closed the deal." Lily's crayon clattered to the table as she squealed. "I told you, Daddy. I told you she'd win." The woman dropped to one knee, eye level with Lily. Her voice softened. "You're very smart. And you gave me something I'll never forget." She touched the pink scarf around her neck. "This scarf, your scarf, was my shield today. You don't know it, but it gave me strength." Lily's cheeks flushed red. "It's okay. Daddy says we should always help." The woman's gaze lifted back to Ethan, and for a second, something unspoken passed between them. Gratitude, curiosity, maybe even recognition of shared burdens neither had voiced. Ethan cleared his throat, uncomfortable under the weight of her eyes. "I'm glad it worked out for you, really, but I just did what anyone would do." Her brows furrowed slightly. "No, not anyone. I've been in boardrooms filled with people who wouldn't lift a finger unless it benefited them. You stepped forward when no one else did. That matters." The cafe had grown quiet again, as if everyone was leaning in without meaning to. The air felt charged, heavier somehow. Before Ethan could respond, the woman reached into her bag, pulled out a pen, and scribbled something onto a napkin. She pressed it into his hand firmly. "This isn't over," she said, her tone almost commanding, her eyes unwavering. "Don't throw that away." Ethan unfolded the napkin once she left. On it, written in neat handwriting, was her name, Madison Cole. Beneath it was a phone number. No explanation, just that. He stared at it for a long moment before shoving it into his jacket pocket. Madison Cole? Why did that name sound so familiar? That night, after putting Lily to bed, Ethan sat at the small kitchen table, staring at the napkin again. His life had been predictable for years. Wake up, work 2 jobs, make dinner, help with homework, collapse from exhaustion. This napkin felt like a disruption, a spark threatening to light something he wasn't sure he was ready for. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Ethan, it's Madison. I meant what I said. This isn't over." He hesitated, then typed back carefully. "Glad your meeting worked out. Not sure why you'd want to keep in touch, but thank you again." Her reply was instant. "Not sure. You'll understand soon." He frowned, leaning back in his chair. Her words felt like a promise, or maybe a warning. The next morning, Ethan dropped Lily off at school before heading to his job at a construction site. It was grueling work, the kind that left his back aching and his hands raw. By lunch, he was drenched in sweat, his muscles burning. That's when his phone buzzed again. A call this time. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but answered at the last second. Ethan Walker. A crisp voice asked, "Yeah, who's this?" "This is Madison Cole. You might remember me from..." Ethan cut her off with a dry chuckle. Or to forget someone who borrowed my jacket and scarf, then left me a napkin. There was a pause, then her laugh, low, smooth, but edged with something sharper, filtered through the line. Fair enough. I'd like you to meet me tomorrow, noon, at the address I'm about to text you. Look, Ethan said, wiping sweat from his brow. I'm not sure what you think this is, but trust me, she interrupted, her voice steady. You'll want to come. The line went dead before he could argue. Moments later, his phone buzzed again. An address downtown, in the heart of the city's financial district. Ethan exhaled slowly, shoving the phone back into his pocket. Whatever this woman wanted, it wasn't simple, and something in his gut told him life as he knew it was about to change. That night, Ethan sat with Lily on the couch as she colored in her book. She looked up at him suddenly. Daddy, is the lady with the scarf your friend now? He hesitated, staring at her innocent face. Maybe, I don't know yet. She liked you, Lily said matter-of-factly. She smiled at you different. Ethan chuckled softly, ruffling her hair. You see too much, kiddo. But deep down her words lingered. And as he stared at the napkin again before bed, Ethan realized Madison Cole wasn't just passing through his life. She was pulling him into something bigger, something he wasn't ready for, but maybe desperately needed. The coffee spill had been an accident, but the collision of their worlds, that felt like fate. The next day, Ethan stood in front of a towering glass building downtown, feeling completely out of place. Workers in suits flowed in and out like a tide, their polished shoes clicking against marble floors. Ethan adjusted his faded jeans and tugged at his old work boots, suddenly hyper-aware of the grease stains on his shirt. He considered turning back. He didn't belong here. But then he remembered Madison's voice. You'll want to come. With a deep breath, he stepped inside. The receptionist didn't even blink when he gave his name. Right this way, Mr. Walker, she said politely, leading him to a private elevator. The higher it climbed, the tighter his chest felt. When the doors opened, he stepped into a sleek office that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city skyline, and there, standing confidently behind a desk, was Madison Cole, her stained ivory dress replaced with a tailored navy suit that radiated power. She smiled faintly. You came, Ethan scratched the back of his neck. Not sure why. Guess curiosity won. Good. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. Sit, reluctantly he did. His calloused hands rested on his knees, a stark contrast to the polished mahogany beneath them. Madison leaned forward, her eyes sharp yet kind. I need you to understand something. That day at the cafe, it wasn't just about coffee. It was about what I saw in you. Ethan raised an eyebrow. And what exactly did you see? A guy who ruined his only decent jacket and probably smells like concrete dust most days. Her lips curved into a small, amused smile. No, I saw a man who didn't hesitate to help when no one else would. I saw integrity. And in my world, integrity is rarer than gold, he frowned. Your world? She leaned back in her chair. I'm the CEO of Cole Enterprises. The words hit him like a punch. He'd heard of it. Everyone had. A multi-million-dollar company that dominated real estate and tech. Suddenly, her last name wasn't just familiar. It was legendary. Ethan exhaled slowly, stunned. And what does someone like you want with someone like me? Madison stood, walking to the window. Her reflection looked back at him, a mixture of strength and vulnerability. Because money can buy almost anything, except trust. And I can't do what I need to do surrounded only by people chasing my power. She turned to face him. But you stepped in without expecting anything. That's why I want you. His jaw tightened. Want me for what? Her gaze didn't waver. To work with me. To stand beside me. To help me build something real, something that isn't poisoned by greed. You'd be more than an employee, Ethan. You'd be a partner. Ethan's laugh was short, bitter. Partner? I'm a construction worker, a single dad barely keeping the lights on. I don't belong in boardrooms. Madison's voice dropped to a whisper, but it carried weight. And yet, you already belong here more than half the men in this building. Silence stretched between them. The hum of the city outside seemed to fade. Finally, Ethan shook his head. I've made peace with the life I've got. My daughter is my world. I can't gamble with that. Madison stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his. And what if I told you this wasn't a gamble? What if I told you that your kindness that morning already changed the course of my company and my life? Confused, Ethan frowned. What do you mean? She took a deep breath. That deal I closed. It wasn't just big. It was a turning point. Investors who had lost faith in me were ready to walk. But I walked into that room with my head high, coffee stains and all, because your words reminded me I was still capable. Without that, I would have lost everything. And if I had, thousands of jobs would have gone with it. The weight of her confession hit him hard. His act, something he thought was small, had rippled into something massive. Ethan leaned back, stunned. All because of a jacket and a scarf? No, Madison said firmly. Because of the man who offered them. Because of you. His throat tightened. He thought about Lily, her bright smile, her innocence, her unwavering faith in him even when he doubted himself. Maybe Madison was right. Maybe he had more to give than he realized. But doubt lingered. Why me, Madison? Out of everyone you could choose, why drag me into your world? Her expression softened. Because I don't want someone polished. I want someone real. Someone my employees will trust. Someone my board can't manipulate. And someone my heart. She stopped herself, catching her breath. Someone my heart knows won't betray me when it matters most. Ethan stared at her, words stuck in his throat. He saw the steel in her spine, but also the loneliness in her eyes, the kind only people at the top carried, the kind he knew all too well in his own way. At last, he spoke, his voice low. If I do this, it's not just for me. It's for Lily. Madison's lips curved into the faintest smile. Then it's already the right choice. Weeks passed, and Ethan's world transformed. He wasn't just fixing broken walls anymore. He was sitting in meetings, speaking honestly, grounding Madison when others tried to manipulate her. At first he stumbled, unsure of himself. But each time he looked at Lily's proud face, or saw the way Madison leaned on his steady presence, he grew stronger. The man who once believed he was defined by sweat and survival now realized he was more. He was a voice that mattered, a force that couldn't be ignored. And Madison, she no longer walked into rooms alone. She walked in knowing she had someone who believed in more than titles or power, someone who believed in her. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the skyline, Madison turned to Ethan in her office. Her voice was quiet, vulnerable. Do you ever think about that morning at the cafe? How everything started? Ethan smiled faintly, remembering the coffee spill, the jacket, Lily's scarf. All the time. It felt like nothing then. Just helping someone out. And now? She asked. His eyes met hers. Now it feels like the beginning of everything. She exhaled, a soft laugh escaping her lips, but her eyes shimmered with emotion. Funny how the smallest acts of kindness end up rewriting entire lives. Ethan nodded slowly, his voice steady. Kindness isn't small. It just waits for the right moment to show its power. And in that shared silence, in the glow of a setting sun, they both understood what started as a spill, a stain, and a simple act of kindness had become a bond neither of them had been searching for, but both desperately needed. Their lives had been scarred, yes, but now together they had found something worth healing for.